You're listening to BluPlz here on WoWRadio with myself, TotalBiscuit, and we have a very special guest in the internet studio, as it were. Ladies and gentlemen, may I produce to you the one, the only, the fantastic, the legendary Oxhorn.
Hello, I'm gonna go with the Dairy Queen BBQ.
Yes, or something to that effect. Now, please introduce yourself and tell us who are you and what are you doing here?
I'm Oxhorn. My real name is Brandon Dennis, and I'm here because I was asked to come on, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yes, you were indeed asked to come on. Oxhorn, the producer of many machinima, multiple machinima as it happens. An awful lot of machinima, let me just put it that way. That's not all you do though, is it?
No, it's not. I do a lot of other things. I write a lot. I make some songs. I sing a lot, and I'm a full-time student.
Very good, very good. Now, before we continue on with the interview, would you like to give our listeners something to peruse, perhaps your website?
Oh, well, that certainly sounds like a good idea. My website is www.brandonmdennis.com, and on there you can find links to articles I write for my campus newspaper, chapters of short stories, or chapters of novels and completed short stories, poems, and, of course, my movies.
Indeed. That's BrandonMDennis.com. Check it out while you're listening to this one-of-a-kind interview. Now, let's assume that some of the listeners perhaps haven't heard of your work. Where did you get started?
Well, I guess the earliest I ever got to making something like this was back when I was playing Dark Age of Camelot. That was actually the very first massive multiplayer online RPG I ever played, and I came out with a short flash animation called Spears, Spears, Spears. And I basically took the Monty Python spam song, and because in the game there's a lot of really cool weapons, and my favorite one was the spear, and so I decided to have a collection of spears. And so I would go Spears, 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 Spears. And then, I never did any machinima for that game, and when I switched to World of Warcraft, I forgot how to do Flash, and so I decided to just do machinima instead. And so the first one I came out with was a PvP laugh. And looking back on it, it's really simple, but it was fun.
Yeah, you kind of shot to fame, as it were, with the first X-Fire contest, where you famously released not one, but how many machinima was it?
Oh, I don't even know. Let's see.
I think it was about 6, wasn't it?
1, 2, 3. I submitted more than actually got approved because a few of them had music that I didn't compose in it, like Facing the Grim Totems, so it was a lot.
Yeah, and I think the first question would be, why did you come up with so many?
Well, at the time I was using Windows Movie Maker, which is a relatively simple program compared to others like Adobe Premiere, and I was a full-time college student, but I decided to spend all my free time when I wasn't studying and writing papers making movies, just because I enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. It gave me a chance to be creative, and so I just started coming up with ideas, and I made a whole bunch of them. And I figured the more that I put out there, the greater chance of me actually winning some sort of award.
Yeah, that's not a bad way of viewing things. You do seem to be more prolific. You're one of the really big names in WoW Machinima at this point in time. We've got, we've got the old staples. We've got Rufus Cubed, we've got Mindflame, and we've got, of course, Tristan Pope and a couple of other guys actually making their way up there as big names within the WoW Machinima scene. You're up there, and yet you seem to be far more prolific than all of them. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think one of the best compliments I ever received was that I was the best amateur machinima maker out there. And I spend a lot of time, writing the scripts and doing the voices and but I don't know. It's just I get into modes, like one time I'll be in a movie making mode or a writing mode, and then I have to finish it before, or else I can't move on to the next thing. So, and that's what I'll do. If I decide to make a movie, I'll just sit down and I'll finish it until I move on to something else, which isn't very good if you want to get a college degree, let me tell you.
Well, yes, I think we all find ways to waste our time at college. That's just the way of things. But you did say you were using Windows Movie Maker to begin with. Was the simplistic methods that you use with Windows Movie Maker, did that help you produce more? Is there anything you've actually done to streamline your technique as you've gone along? Because obviously you've started to use more advanced programs. What were you saying, you were using Premiere now?
Yeah, the last movie I made with Windows Movie Maker was Courting a Celt, which is actually a movie I made in Dark Age of Camelot for an Axe/X-Fire contest. And I just realized that there were so many things I wanted to do that I could not do with that program anymore. And so I obtained a copy of Premiere, and I just sat myself down and forced myself to learn how to do it. And I'm not, perfect at it, but I can get around. And ever since then, I made Oxhorn Tells Off X-Fire, and every movie past that has been with Premiere.
Excellent. Very, very good. Now, as far as the machinima community as a whole, you're obviously a big part of that. Now, how do you think that, what was the effect of WoW in general on the machinima community?
Well, there's so many people who play World of Warcraft that naturally there's going to be a greater pool of people that are going to, have the creative impulse to make movies like this. And so, the major split goes, you have all the people who go out and make PvP videos and the PvE videos, and then you have the guys who sit down and want to write a storyline. And that's what I do. The only PvP video I ever made was a PvP laugh, and even then it was so that people could look at me and laugh at me, because that's half the fun of it,
Oh, yeah.
But World of Warcraft, all the people who make movies for World of Warcraft have incredibly bolstered the entire machinima genre itself, almost to the point where they tend to overshadow it, almost as if they're flooding the community with it.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, I was going to follow up on that and actually say, do you think that perhaps this dearth, this entire, metric ton of new machinima, is it reaching a saturation point? Do you think it can continue to develop at this current speed?
I think it can, and I think even if it gets faster, because as people develop in their as people get better at making movies, it's just going to raise the bar for the next guy who wants to make movies. And the only thing that can happen is that machinima is going to get better. It can't get worse, right? Well, as far as technology goes, it can only get better because people are competing with each other now. And not only each other, but people outside of the World of Warcraft aspect of it too. So.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of looking at it. Would you say that the machinima community has actually had an effect on WoW? Let's flip the first question over a little bit. Do you think that machinima has had a big impact on World of Warcraft, maybe on the success of World of Warcraft, or just on the community in general? Do you think it's enhanced it? And if so, how and why?
Yes, definitely. And I guess the proof that I'll put forward is, there are people out there who do not know what World of Warcraft is, and there's a lot more people out there who don't know what it is than we might think. And one of the top comments I get on YouTube when I put my movies up there is people will say, "Oh, that looked fun. What game is this?" And then I'll have to say, "Oh, it's World of Warcraft." And I'll go, "Oh, maybe I'll get it. I keep on hearing about it, And so I think that machinima itself is an incredible advertising tool for World of Warcraft and Blizzard, because people see it, they see the kind of things that directors and movie makers can do with it, and they like it, and so they want to play the game.
Yeah, of course. Let's be a little bit candid and say, do you think that Blizzard, at least at this point in time, is doing enough to support it, or are you finding now that external companies, third parties like X-Fire, are actually pushing it for their own devices?
Well, X-Fire has been absolutely wonderful as far as supporting machinima. They've hosted 2 contests so far. They had a pre-contest, they tried to do a commercial, because they've realized that there are so many people out there who want to watch these movies that if they can get filmmakers to submit movies to their website, they're going to get a lot of hits. And, we have to give Blizzard credit, too, because they sponsored this last contest, and I believe they sponsored the one before that as well, and they've had their own contests, too, which I believe brought Rufus Cube great fame for Return,
Oh, yes, of course, yeah.
So they have supported the machinima community, and there are things that they could do that I'd like them to do, and there's there's a lot of things that they have already done and are continuing to do. So I really have very little to gripe about with them.
Great, excellent. Well, as you saw, actually on our forums, we had a sack full of questions for you. So many that we could perhaps not cram it into this interview, but we're going to try anyway. It'll be most epic. So I'm going to kick right into some questions here. There is a question thread on the forums. If you want to peruse it, you can go there. It's WCRadio.com. Click the forums button at the top of the screen. Scroll yourself down to the BluPlz show forum and you will find the interview question thread. This is, of course, a pre-recorded interview, so you can't ask any now, but you can see what our lovely, lovely listeners have asked. So I want to kick right into some listener questions. Some quick-fire ones, if you will.
Sure.
What inspires you to keep doing machinima?
inspires me to keep doing machinima? Well, the fun thing about machinima is that it's the closest to filmmaking that I'm able to get. I can't afford a good camera. I can't afford a crew. I'm a one-man team, more or less. And the nice thing about that is one man can get on one computer with a program and make something that looks good. And so it's just a really, really great art form that is cheap. The learning curve isn't too steep, and yet it gives you this great opportunity to make a compelling story or a great comedy and entertain people. And I've always just really been into the creative aspect of whether it's writing or making something out of carving or playing an instrument or whatever, and this is just a natural extension of that.
Yeah, I mean, to follow up on that, as far as machinima goes, were you influenced particular by any machinima producers, or do you draw your influences from other sources such as perhaps novels or film work?
Well, I mean, the other machinima producers are just absolutely fantastic. I mean, some of my favorite movies that I've seen aren't even my own. I'm a big fan as well as a movie maker myself. But I started making these movies before I was really aware of machinima as a genre. I just knew that you could make a movie on your computer about a video game, and I thought this would be great for me to be able to tell a story, so I did. As far as influences go, I think some of the greatest influences I have been literary, film, and music influences. Like Tolkien, of course, and then there's C.S. Lewis and G.K. Chesterton, and all the other filmmakers who's, I've got a stack of DVDs here in my DVD collection of all my favorite movies, and they've been, I can't even tell you how much of an influence they've been on me, because I probably don't even know.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, you did actually mention music there. There is a big musical element to most, if not all, of your productions. I mean, people are asking, is it you that does all of the vocal work in all of these songs?
With the exception of with the exception of Birth of the Forsaken, every sung piece in any of my movies are mine. I sung Hark Hear the Whales, and I sung the Anti-Elf Anthem, and the 12 Days of Winter's Veil, and the Great Kodo. I basically, just sat down at my computer with a microphone and sang. That's all I really did. I mean, it wasn't really anything, fancy to it. I just found a microphone and sang a song into it and decided, okay, that sounds good. I'll make a movie about that.
Do you have a background in vocal work and singing at all? Is this something, a talent you've actually had to develop as your movies have progressed?
I never took any, major instruction. All throughout high school, I played trumpet until I was around 9, and then I wasn't involved in music at all. And when I got to college, I joined a choir, and one of the songs we did in my choir is actually the song used in Birth of the Forsaken, Verbum caro factum est, and that's a bunch of my choir buddies and myself singing that song. And I discovered then that I was a decent singer. I'm not good by any means. I mean, I've tried to take private lessons, and I'm not nearly as good as all that, but I'm all right with that, and I'm just really musically inclined to begin with. And I just think that music is just a natural, necessary aspect of good storytelling. Because, I mean, even a lot of the original stories we have were all relayed in lyrical form, like the Iliad and the Odyssey. They were all oral poems that were sung.
I mean, there does seem to be something of a Celtic theme going on through many of your works. Is there any particular reason for that?
I guess just because I like a lot of Celtic music. I stumbled upon the Irish Rovers one day and loved it, and so I've been trying to buy all their CDs, and I've listened to the Chieftains and the Medieval Babes, and I don't know, I just really like that genre of music. Plus, I'm a bit of Irish and Scottish and English anyway, so I guess it's just natural.
Yeah, I mean, one of our listeners actually asks, what was the song that you used in The Great Kodo? Is that something you wrote yourself, or is that perhaps a parody?
No, that's actually the tune itself is based off of a traditional Irish folk song called The King of the Fairies. I wrote the lyrics myself, and I sang them myself, but the song, the actual music, is based off of an Irish folk song. And I've just really loved, pub songs and folk songs, and I just recently, on Wednesday, actually bought myself a whistle, trying to teach myself some of this stuff.
Okay, you know what we're gonna have to do? We're gonna have to have a live recital right now on air.
A recital? I don't even know if I'm nearly that good.
We know you can do it. We have faith.
Okay, well. Alright, well, maybe you'll be able to recognize this. I don't even know. I'll probably stumble. Let's see. Yes. See, it doesn't work when you sit down to try and actually do it.
It's the audience, isn't it? Come on, we know you can do it.
There you go. That's about as good as you're going to get out of me. I've only been playing it.
Indeed, go wild. Very good indeed. Right, well, let's talk a little bit about your novels, and actually I know you were wanting to actually get a novel published at one point, weren't you? And what kind of themes do you tend to play on in your written work? Do you view it perhaps as more or less important than your machinima? I mean, where do you draw influence on? What kind of direction are you aiming to take it in?
Well, as far as my fiction goes, I've been doing that far longer than I have been doing machinima. And, I love film, I love music, but I really do still believe that the written word is probably the best medium for expressing a good story. And so, while I love machinima, it does take a backseat to my fiction. And I've completed a novel, which I'm trying to get published right now. I've got a lady who works at a press reading it, and I don't know where that's going to go, but I do have high hopes, far higher hopes than I probably should have. But I just really love to write, and the nice thing about that is that you don't have to learn a fancy program like Adobe Premiere in order to do it. All you got to do is open up Microsoft Word and just sit down and tap away. So I find myself doing that much more often than anything else.
Excellent. Right, let's go a little bit WoW specific for a moment. One of the listeners asks, what's your opinion on the Burning Crusade expansion in general?
Well, everything I've seen about the Burning Crusade has just been absolutely fantastic. I actually haven't installed it yet. The reason for that being, I have just been completely preoccupied with work, with my classes, with writing. I just actually haven't played WoW all that much, and in fact, the past, 6 or so movies that I've made, I haven't even actually logged into World of Warcraft to shoot them. It's all been with WoW Model Viewer and WoW Map Viewer and utilities like that. So, I hear it's a great program, and actually, I feel kind of bad about this, but I got my mom hooked on World of Warcraft a while back. And ever since then, she has just been playing it religiously, and she's actually got a level 70 priest. And
really?
she bought the Burning Crusade, and she's got a flying mount. She's got 5 or so different other mounts, and of course I persuaded her to get a Kodo. She's got 2 Kodos, by the way. So I'm very proud of her. And she just, whenever I go to visit her, that's all we talk about is Burning Crusade. She's like, oh, the Burning Crusade is so great, I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll play it one of these days.
Brilliant. You mentioned there, just to pick up on something, flying mount. It does seem to me that maybe a flying mount could be a very, very useful tool in perhaps the production of machinima. Could you see yourself using that as a sort of flying camera?
I don't know. That's a good question. Some of the limitations of flying mounts is that I believe you can only use them in the Outland, if I'm correct.
Yeah, that's true.
So if I ever wanted to do a flyover of Orgrimmar or something like that, I wouldn't be able to. Also, the versatility you have with using WoW Model Viewer and WoW Map Viewer is just unparalleled. There are things that you can do with those programs that you cannot do in the real world. That said, that people who watch these machinima movies, they want to see stuff that is shot in the real world. That's their natural inclination because it feels more real to them. So I think that a good machinima maker can use WoW Map Viewer and WoW Model Viewer as incredible tools in order to do things that they can't do in the real gaming world, but that the majority of what they do should be shot in the real gaming world. But I haven't even done that myself because my account has been expired for nearly a year. That's probably something I should work on.
Yeah. I'm sure one of the listeners would be more than happy to buy you a 60-day card.
Well, I actually won a free year-long subscription in the last contest,
really?
But they haven't given it to me yet. One of these days they'll give it to me. That's all right.
Right, I've got a couple of quick-fire general questions just to round off this interview. If you'd roll the Alliance, would we have seen the Great Nightsaber?
Oh, heavens no. No, absolutely not. I'm sorry, I'm a Kodo purist. The little striders, the mechanical things for the gnomes, those are all right. The rams are pretty cool. Horses, but cats? Oh, I'm sorry. To all the cat lovers out there, no mean to hurt your feelings, but riding a giant cat, no, just doesn't work.
Well, you do seem to not. Let's just put it mildly. You're not really a massive fan of night elves, are you? I mean, do you hate blood elves as much as you do night elves?
You know, as far as my hatred of elves go, I am a complete purist. I hate blood elves just as much as I hate night elves. So don't think that I've got a double standard here. Anyone with long ears and is tall and slender and calls himself an elf, I hate you. Not the player, of course, just the actual race.
Fantastic. What is your beard made of? Is it Kodo hair or Chuck Norris? That's the choices.
Kodo hair or Chuck Norris?
Kodo hair and Chuck Norris.
Definitely Chuck Norris, I think, yeah.
Chuck Norris? Yeah, absolutely. Well, what else have we got? Now, I've got a listener who asks, the specific scene, actually, I don't actually remember this one, so you might have to enlighten me. And he says, how did you come up with the whole, what have I done, I've killed a wabbit scene? It was quite frankly made of win.
Well, that's from Red Snapper at the beginning. For those of you who are very well versed in cartoons, as I am, it actually comes from a Looney Tunes episode. It's when they did an opera, and you've got Elmer Fudd running around, chasing Bugs Bunny, and he has his spear and magic helmet. Like, spear one magic helmet, yo ho, yo ho. And then when he actually kills Bugs Bunny, he goes, what have I done? I've killed the wabbit. But then I put in the oh well.
Yeah, okay, well there's the reference to hammer and magic helmet then. Will we actually see more of the Tauren with his hammer and magic helmet?
Well, the guy who played, that's Oxhorn, my actual character in the real game, and I actually use him in the majority of my movies, so you'll see him in probably a number of other movies I do. In fact, in Inventing Swear Words, he plays the guy in the blue suit. Oxhorn does.
Fantastic. As far as inventing swear words go, do you know anyone that actually uses those invented swear words?
Surprisingly, yeah. I'll go onto YouTube every now and then and read some of the comments people leave, and on Inventing Swear Words and Inventing Swear Words 2, people are saying, oh man, I use these at school all the time, or oh, me and my friends, we use these on camping or whatever, and I've actually found myself saying bloit every now and then. In fact, that's probably the one that I use more often than anything is bloit. Bloiting. Bloit.
Well, are there any words that you've made up that you haven't shared with the wide world yet?
Yeah, well, I made a list of different swear words that I wanted to use, and I've narrowed them down to the ones that you've seen in the movies. But, I've got a script completely written for Inventing Swear Words 3, if only I can find the time to sit down and write it. And I do have some words saved for that one as well.
Fantastic. So, was that a little bit of a hint as to what we can expect in the future? What will we see from the Oxhorn Publishing House?
As far as what you will see, I can't tell you. And what I want to show you, there's a lot. I've written 2 new songs that I'd like to turn into music videos, and there's 2 songs that I've sung in my choir that I'd like to turn into music videos. I've written a script for Inventing Swear Words 3, and at least the trailer to that I hope to get out maybe during spring break sometime. But no promises. But the one I want to do most of all is the sequel to Racing the Grim Totem, because I do have a sequel for that written.
Fantastic. You'll have to get those songs over to us and we'll play them live on the air for our listeners.
Well, I have to say, I've written them, and I know the tunes. I have to sit down and record myself singing them first.
We'll be waiting with bated breath, definitely. Now, as far as your videos go, do you have a personal favourite?
Yeah. That would be Racing the Grim Totem. That's my personal favorite.
And why is that?
Well, it's very... I know it goes on a very popular theme, which is revenge. And, I don't think revenge is a very healthy or good thing to do, but that's part of human nature is to want revenge. And that's why it resonates with a lot of people. I think it's the most, artsy movie I've ever done, but that's not why I like it. I like it just because it's a story about, what someone does to approach loss. It's about love and loss, and I just really like the theme to that one. So, plus, it's in black and white, and it's the only black and white movie I've ever done. Or sepia tone, actually.
Yeah, there's another thing that I picked up on, one of our listeners actually picked up on as well. You seem to include a shout-out to the Lord and Saviour at the end of every one of your productions. Is there any particular reason to that?
Yeah, I try to do that at the end of all of my movies, and on my page on warcraftmovies.com as well, which is a fantastic site, by the way, just to give them a little shout-out. Well, the reason I do that is... the reason I do that is because I'm a Christian, and I believe that you should give glory to God. I mean, I think it's 1 Corinthians 10:31 that actually says, in everything, give glory to God in everything you do. And so hopefully I can give a little bit to him in these movies that I'm doing.
Absolutely. I've got one last question before we wrap this one up. It's from Spirit Wolf. I think you know Spirit Wolf.
Yeah.
Yeah, Spirit Wolf is actually going to be interviewed next week on the show, which should be interesting to say the least. And he has a question. He says, an educated, upsmart chap such as yourself surely has a favourite type of tea.
A favourite type of tea? Well, of course I have a favourite type of tea, being so educated as I am. Tongue-in-cheek. Probably green tea. That's what I've been drinking recently, out of my ugly mug here. So yeah, green tea.
Mug.
Yes, it's a Rumpf mug.
Oh, I was going to say, just how ugly is this mug?
It's very ugly. It's got a cross-eyed guy on the inside and a gremlin or cross-eyed guy on the outside and a gremlin on the inside.
Fantastic. Well,
so very ugly.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Oxhorn, for coming on the air with us today. And what was your website again?
My website is www.brandonmdennis.com.
Check it out, folks. That's in order. This has been Oxhorn on BluPlz. We're going to head over to a music break now, so stay tuned for just after the break. I'll have yet more scintillating and, quite frankly, rant-worthy topics to cover. Thank you, Mr. Oxhorn.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. To the music. Enjoy.